JD here, and welcome to another webinar. Thanks for joining us. The theme of this webinar, as you know, we have themes for each one of these webinars, and by the way, they're all recorded, and I think my PA has just about finished in time-coded summaries for each one. So therefore, if you want to go back and look at any of these webinars, what I've got her to do is to actually summarise the title of what the subject matter was, and also then put half a dozen bullet points underneath that video to say, look, at the 11-minute mark he rambles on about this, and at the 17-minute mark he talks about, you know, wow factor signage. At the 21-minute mark he talks about the homepage of your website and so forth. So it's just handy for you to go back in, because I have so much love and affection for you guys, of course. There's a depth to my shallowness, in case you didn't know, that I've decided to go out of our way and make sure that we sort of time code the major takeouts from each of the webinars, which means that if you go back and, you know, want to share it with someone in the business, you can say, oh look, webinar number 3 here, you can see that this is what JD was rambling on about. Now, the theme of this webinar is all about repetitive trade. Okay, and I want to really highlight to you just how important it is not to have one customer. And you might say, well look, if I'm a builder and I build a home for someone, which might be a once in a lifetime thing for them, how do I get repetitive trade out of them? Not in the conventional sense, you won't, but you certainly will get repetitive trade out of them from referrals if you have the right referral system in place. So, you know, in our instance, gosh, you know, we've got 6 kids, and so therefore we went from, you know, when we first got married with no kids, a small little 3-bedroom Masterton home, to then eventually, you know, sort of having to get a bigger home as we had more children. And not one of those builders along the way ever gave us a referral system. They never gave us an incentive to refer them to someone else. Were we happy with them? Yeah, we were, I think, most of the time. But have I thought about, you know, recommending them to some friends or workmates or colleagues? No, because they never gave us any inclination to do that. They gave us no incentive. So even if you sell a big ticket line and you think it's just a oncer, then maybe it's a once in a lifetime purchase for that particular client who has bought it from you at that time, but it's certainly not a oncer in terms of the referrals that they could make to family, friends and colleagues. I also thought I would just let you know what I've been doing over the last little while. Not that you really care, okay, so I'm not telling you this to get the violin out and go, oh, well, look what I've been doing, because you really care. I just thought this might be of interest to you. So when I do bring things up about me, aside from the fact that I do like talking about me, it's really so that you can extract from that, I guess, a mentality of, well, how can I do that? Because JD is so brilliant. If he's doing it, then how do I do it? Okay, I've been hanging around a franchise convention, and the reason I have is because I wanted to see if I could reverse engineer the model that I have for attracting bees to my honeypot. And I just thought I'd share this with you before we get stuck into the repetitive trade stuff, because my model is, as you well know, because that's the way you came into my world, my model is holding an event. And we've trialled evening events, we've trialled half-day events, we've trialled one-day events and 2-day events. And we've measured the success of selling my programs at each one of those events, and we can see, you know, which ones come number 1, 2, 3 or 4. But I'm always thinking of, you know, are there any other channels of being able to bring bees to my honeypot? Now, you know what I sell. I sell this. I sell information. Okay, so I'm in what they call the info marketing game. I market information. And in my instance, my information is all marketing based. Now, there are other, you know, people out there flogging, you know, real estate investment opportunities. And so therefore they will have a seminar room full of mums and dads who maybe, you know, only have their family home, and they're trying to convince those people to become part of their world so that they can invest in another home and another home and another home and build a real estate portfolio so that they can retire wealthy. And then there are other speakers out there flogging personal development, and that's what Anthony Robbins largely is. He's a personal development coach, and he's, you know, basically selling the opportunity, well, selling to all of us the opportunity for us to invest in his motivational tapes and programs and so forth. So there's a whole bunch of people out there in the info marketing game. I just happen to be in, ironically, info marketing game selling marketing advice. Okay, now the model that all of those people use pretty much is having a giant Tupperware party, and in having, you know, as many prospects in the room as possible, giving lots of value, and then at the end of that presentation, whether it's a half day, full day, 2 day, whatever it might be, making a pitch. and that pitch will be, you can join their club or their program, whatever. Now, it's a very good model, and I've urged you, you know this, I've urged you to think about doing it yourself. I mean, no matter what business you're in, you should think about holding some Tupperware parties, okay? Now, in your instance, it might be that you hold an event at night and it's a cocktail party. And I won't go too far into that because we've held another webinar previously talking all about events and how you should hold them. So if you want to revisit that, please do. But I'm always looking for ways, well, how do you reinvent that wheel? Not that it's not working, it's working quite handsomely for us. We're very happy with it. I wish I'd discovered, the sell once to many model many years ago. I wish I'd found it earlier in my career. Because it certainly stops you from wearing leather out on your shoes, for goodness sake, door knocking one-on-one. I mean, that poor Hoover vacuum salesman back in the 50s and 60s, I just feel so sorry for him. There was no internet, and the only way that he could probably sell once to many is put letterbox brochures in lots of letterboxes. But basically, knock, 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 he just knocked on door to door trying to sell Hoover vacuum cleaners. Crazy if we live in the world that we do now, where we don't exploit the opportunity of selling once to many, whether it be by this particular format, webinars, or whether it be by podcasts, or whether it be by sending out press releases that might get picked up by the Sunrise Morning Show or the Today Show or maybe one of the newspapers. Today we live in the world of selling once to many. And so I thought to myself, you know what, at the moment what we're doing is that we are advertising in the Virgin magazine and Qantas magazine, and we're advertising in business publications, and we're promoting our events through LinkedIn and so forth. I wonder whether or not there's another way. And a mate of mine actually produces this magazine. It's called the Franchise Buyer magazine. Okay, I'll just hold it a little bit closer to the camera so you can see that. And this magazine, he has about 24, you can see Seinfeld on the cover, so I'm involved in this particular edition. I'll tell you how that came about in a moment. He has about 24,000 people who have registered for both the snail mail version, which is this, which he doesn't mail out 24,000 of these people. They can pick it up in the Qantas Lounge or news agency and places like that. But he actually emails this magazine, the soft copy, to them once a month. And in this magazine, there's lots and lots of opportunities for people to buy into franchise systems. So, Baker's Delight and Michelle's Patisserie and Jim's Mowing Service, whatever it might be. So you see there, it's like a realestate.com, but for franchisors to advertise their wares in here. And of course, there's articles and so forth in there. In fact, I think there's a very, very, very interesting article here. If I can just flip over to it, very famous marketing consultant. I will find it in just 2 seconds. Hopefully I will, sooner or later. There it is. Goodness me, look. Wonderful, wonderful article about a brilliant marketeer, and it goes on, by the way, for 4 pages. So therefore, I got my money's worth out of my mate on that occasion. Let's put it that way. So he's got about 24,000 people to get the online version of this every month. And these people had been to a franchise convention, or, he's collected their data because they've shown some interest in one day buying a franchise. So they might be a bank manager at the moment, but they might like to sort of think about buying a Mr. Whippy or Michelle's Patisserie franchise sometime down the track. And so they're on his list. So he sells advertising to Pizza Hut and McDonald's and Jim's Mowing Service and Baker's Delight and so on and so forth in this magazine. And they basically flog their opportunity for people to buy franchises, okay, and become a franchisee. And I'm talking to him, and I said to him, that's interesting. Do they have expos and conventions? And he said, yeah, they do. They do. He said, there's basically a big national one. And then there's state ones. So he said the franchise industry has about 5 or 6 conventions a year. I said, right. And they have exhibition booths at those conventions? He said, yeah, okay. I said, why don't I reverse engineer what I'm doing at the moment, and instead of hiring a room and then, using my Virgin Airline magazine ads and LinkedIn and all sorts of other ways to fill the room with prospects, and that is, 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 business owners, might be an idea to go fishing where the fish are already swimming, and that is the franchisor, not franchisee, franchisor, who are the owners of Jim's Mowing Service and Baker's Delight and so forth, and take out a booth at their exhibition. And that's what I've been doing just over, the last few days. There was a national franchisor expo convention on the Gold Coast, and I took out a stand and basically promoted my marketing services to franchisors. Now, what do you think franchisors want? They want to sell more of these franchisee opportunities to people that are on my mate's list. Okay, there's 24,000 on the list. And of course, once they sell the franchisee opportunity. So therefore they flog a Baker's Delight, or they flog a Jim's Mowing Service, or whatever it might be, or James Butler Service, or whatever it is. Then of course they want to help those franchisees make money by directing more prospects or more clients to that business. Because if it's one thing that I've learned over this sort of path that I've been on in terms of providing marketing coaching, is that there's a lot of franchisors out there who are not delivering what they promised to their franchisees. Now maybe McDonald's and KFC do, because they have their big national marketing campaigns, and then they help the franchisees at perhaps local level. But I've been contacted by a whole host of franchisees who are very frustrated with the franchisor because they're not getting traffic through their door. And I can't do a lot for them a lot of the times, because my hands are handcuffed, because they're under a franchise agreement which basically says you can't do your own letterbox drop in Toowoomba, or you can't do your own radio campaign in Tamworth. You've got to fall under the franchise agreement. And so therefore the penny dropped for me, and I thought, wow, why don't I go fishing where the fish are? Franchisors, A, have got money because they're a franchisor. B, they're forced to spend that money on marketing because the franchisee is insisting, well, give me customers, I want to know how to get customers. So therefore I'm going to be fishing in a pond where they are forced to spend money on marketing, but the good majority of them don't know how to do it. I went fishing where the fish swim, okay, and guess what? I got smashed with inquiries. I took out a stand, and it was, I don't know, I forget the cost, it might have been $6,000 for the 2 days for the typical expo stand, 3 metres by 3 metres. And what would happen is that the people come out of the convention listening to keynote speakers. They would come through the expo stand area, the exhibition area, and have their cup of tea and their scones and what have you, and of course they'd mingle around all of the expo stands. If you've been to a convention, you know what I'm talking about. And I got smashed by lots of people going, wow, we own one person said to me they owned a what was it? It was a franchise that was an electrical franchise. I forget what it was called now. It was Mr. Electrics or something like that. And the only reason it sounds silly for me to be boasting about having a success rate with this, but then not remembering what the name is. I'm just collating all of the business cards and the inquiries I've got right now. And so therefore this guy said to me, look, we've got something like 17 franchisees, all of who were electricians running their own electrical business, but they have come onto my McDonald's type franchising system, whereby I'm supposed to give them leads. And he said, that's where I'm falling down. They're paying me $50,000, whatever it was, for the franchise up front, and then they're paying 7 or 8 or 9% ongoing commission or royalty. But he said the fact is that that 8 or 9% ongoing royalty is not going to mean a lot to me if they don't sell more, and I don't know how to drive more traffic to them. I need you to show me how to get consumers to ring up Mr. Electric and book one of my services. So it was very successful, and it was a real eye-opener to me, because whilst we've had a great success with the model that we've got, where you hire a room and you fill it with people and you sell once to many, this is just another arm. This is another channel, if you like, of marketing my services, where I actually go to conventions. And if I speak at the convention, well, it's a no-brainer. I know exactly what will happen. If I get it, this was done at the last moment, so there were no speaking gigs available. But I will be on the speaking stage next year, that's for sure, because I know they want to hear what I've got to say. And this will give me a whole new area of picking up new business, because I would just speak at conventions and take out a stand at the expo or the exhibition area, and I know as a result of just experimenting this last couple of days what will happen. Now, the reason I brought that up, because you don't much care how much money I'm making. It's all about how much money I can help you make. Have you thought about that? Do you exhibit at conventions? And I know that in one of my other webinars we talked about experiential marketing, whereby you did take out a booth at expos or various shows or industry sort of seminars, but maybe you've just flipped over that webinar and you haven't done much about it. Are there if you happen to be an accountant, are there business excellence conventions where you could take out a stand? Or is there a way that you could put your hand up if you're not bad in front of the microphone or behind the microphone? Is a way you can put your hand up and say, look, let me talk at the convention. I can offer a lot of value. And the great thing about talking, can you imagine if I get on stage at any of these conventions, it doesn't matter whether it's the plumbers or the electricians or the doctors or dentists or candlestick makers, I'm going to, in my 90 minutes in front of them, show them my, customer attraction system, and then say, look, if you want to talk more about it, then come and see me at stand number 54 in the exhibition, sort of pavilion. I think I'll do even better than what I've done over the last few days at this one. So I just wanted to highlight that to you, that, please start to think outside your normal channels of sales and distribution that you have at the moment, because I'm just sure that there's opportunities like this that I was blind to until my mate sort of introduced me to it. That I'm sure that happens with all of us. We all become a little store blind when we just keep on doing the same old every day. Repetitive trade. Okay, repetitive trade is really, I guess, the essence of what I really want to concentrate on for the rest of this webinar. I guess it sort of just frustrates me that I'm taking a stab at the number, but it's probably 90% or more. Businesses don't collect data, which means they can't really benefit from measurable repetitive trade marketing. And look, when you buy a book from Amazon, pretty quick smart, they've worked out that if you bought this Mills and Boon, love story on this, then there's a good chance you're going to like this one, this one, this one, and this one. And of course, they will annoy you until you buy or die all these other books. And it's called behavioral marketing. And I know that, at our last masterclass 2-day event on the Gold Coast, Pascal gave you some really valuable tips on how to use Infusionsoft and their email funnel system based on, behavioral marketing. And I know that some of you have, I guess, invested in our WOW automation to do that. But even if you don't go down the, sophisticated, automatic marketing system like Infusionsoft, still by having the names and contact details of people you've done business with is so important. And it doesn't matter whether I go into a restaurant and spend $200 or $300 and then walk out without them even knowing my name or my number or my email, or whether I go to Bunnings hardware store and I might spend $1,000 on a whippersnipper and a lawnmower and some paint. They don't ask you. I just shake my head. I just think, how on earth does the marketing manager for this business keep his or her job? It's just bizarre. Movie World on the Gold Coast, and I'm sorry if you've heard me say this before, but I've got to say it again. They will have about 2 million people go through their gates this year, and they will collect nothing more than postcodes. And same with Dreamworld and SeaWorld, the big theme parks on the Gold Coast. When you go through, they ask you for your postcode. And I just want to sort of keep on saying to them, well, what does that mean? If I come from Parramatta in Sydney and I, put in, 2750 or whatever it is, how's that going to help you market market your theme park? What are you going to do? Come down to Sydney with a big loud hailer and go, anybody from 2750 postcode that came to Dreamworld last year, would you like to come again? It's just ridiculous. And I often tell the story at the seminars, and again, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself and you've heard this dad gag before, but I often do say that when I was taking my teenagers when they're a bit younger to Movie World, and the young teenage girl was saying, look, could you let me know your postcode? And I would say, yeah, it's 42 whatever, but what's that going to help you with? Why don't you ask for my, my name and my email and my cell number? It got to a stage where she would say to me, excuse me, we've got a lot of people on the queue, could you move on or I will have to call security? So I can't help myself giving out this advice, but it's just crazy. And I think I've told you the story where, we go to Cha Cha Cha, a steak restaurant in Brisbane, and it's I won't say it's ridiculously upmarket. I guess a steak meal would cost you $35, $36, $37. So it's in the middle, but it's a very nice restaurant. And, I would fly into Brisbane quite often because the Greater Building Society, of course, was one of my clients for a long time, and the flights from Brisbane were a lot more frequent to Newcastle, where the head office was for the Greater. And so I'd come in through Brisbane, and Gail would escape the teenagers from time to time, my wife, and we'd have a dinner there, and we'd spend between 100 and 150 each time, depending upon whether we had a bottle of wine that night. And they never collected our data at all. The manager became quite friendly. He was a bit of a cheeky character like me, so we got on quite well, and Chris, his name was. And I kept on saying to him, mate, collect the data. There'll be a new bright, shiny restaurant open across the road one day, and then everyone will go there and you can't get them back. And he just, oh, yeah, JD. Well, of course, he did nothing about it. And guess what? Aria, which is a very famous restaurant in Sydney, decided to open up right across the road from him. We're talking like a stone's throw, okay? And guess what they did? They stole a lot of his customers. And I remember being in the restaurant about a month or so afterwards. Gail and I are just sipping on our wine, having entrees, and Chris, the manager for Cha Cha Cha, came up and said, "JD, you wouldn't have any of that wow shit, would you?" And I said to him, "What?" He said, "You wouldn't have any of that wow factor shit, would you?" I went, "Oh yeah, no. Look, I think I might have some in my coat pocket here. Why?" He said, "Well, Aria restaurant has just opened up across the way, and they've stolen half our customers. And what are we going to do?" I said, mate, look, I'll give you some of that wow stuff, okay, on two conditions. Number one, tell me what my name is." And he goes, "Oh, easy, JD." I said, "No, well, that's my nickname, but what's my name?" He goes, "You got me." I said, "Well, there you go. Okay, you don't know my name. I spend $150, let's say, here every time I come, and I come every fortnight. So that's 26 times $150. I'm worth $3.5 or something to you every year, and you don't even know my name." I said, "Look, forget the two questions. I'll give you the opportunity to get some free wow stuff off me if you just answer the second question." He said, "Oh, yeah, sure, give me another chance." I said, "Where do I live?" He goes, "Oh, easy, you live on the Gold Coast." I said, "Yeah, where on the Gold Coast? Because you just can't come down and scream out, JD. And he went, "Okay, you got me, I'm an idiot." I said, "Yes, you are. You're a twit. You are a moron." And I could talk to him like that because he was sort of a mate. I said, "You are crazy. Because if we were like 50% of your other customers and decided to try Aria, the restaurant across the road, which you're tempted to do because we're all attracted to bright, shiny new things, then guess what? You can never contact me. You can never give me some sort of incentive to draw me back again. If you had all of the contact details from all the people that came here, then give them their honeymoon, let them open and have 4 weeks for the honeymoon because everyone's going to go to the new restaurant no matter what. And then after that, you send out an email and say, look, Chef Pierre from the Cha 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 restaurant has just created this unbelievable dessert, and it happens to be a replica of the dessert that won the Belgium MasterChef Grand Final on TV, and it's renowned as one of the greatest desserts that ever has come out of Europe. And our chef here at Cha 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 has been able to duplicate and replicate that unbelievable dessert. Okay, it should be $25 a time. It's just unbelievable. Won the MasterChef in Belgium. And what we'd like to do is invite you and Gail to come back to our restaurant anytime, or not come back, but come to our restaurant anytime in the next week, and the dessert for both of you is on the house. Absolutely with our compliments, okay? Do you think that might incentivize us to think, oh, well, we won't go to Aria again, we'll actually go back to Cha Cha Cha, because that dessert thing is just too good. You can't do that if you don't have data. And guess what? That was about 18 months to 2 years ago. I had that discussion with him. What do you think's happened? You got it. Nothing. We don't go there as often anymore because I don't fly into Brisbane so often, but we went there about a month ago, and nothing. They do not collect any data still, and I don't know how many customers they've lost to the restaurant across the road who they've never got back because they just can't contact them. Absolutely madness. So please make sure you collect data. And if you say to me, well, how would he collect data, and would everybody give it to him? Yes. I've got proof time and time again. People are willing to give you their details if you give them the right incentive. And in the online world, of course, that's having a free report or a free video download or free something whereby they give you their name, their email and their mobile number in return for being able to download a free report or something right now. And in the offline world, in his instance, it's as simple as giving away a dinner for 6 every month. And so therefore, if there are 4 people on the table, there's 4 entry forms, and they don't look like the tuck shop, P&F fundraising committee's entry form that you get from one of the school kids. They look like, it's an invitation from the Queen. You make sure that the entry form looks valuable, and basically it's your waitresses or your waiters would say, look, please could you fill those in? I'll be back with the check in a moment, or I'll be back with a complimentary coffee or whatever it is at the moment. Can you please make, all of you got to fill that in because we really want to give all of you the chance to win this dinner for 6 worth blah, blah, blah. So therefore it's not just a check payer, but it will be everyone around the table. And I've done it for restaurant after restaurant after restaurant who, thankfully have followed my advice, and they've reaped the rewards like crazy, because aside from being able to then put their clients into an email funnel, some of which would use Infusionsoft to just keep on sending out offers to them and reminders all the time. But when they came time to sell the restaurant, what do you think the most valuable component that someone wants to buy outside of the net profit? Okay, what do you think it is? A database. A database. You've heard the story of the Sanctuary Cove restaurant that sold for for 970,000, and when the owner had paid that check, when the buyer had handed the check over for that amount of money, the restaurant owner said, well, how would you like to buy my database of 9,742 customers who are our best customers, and we've broken them up into A, B, C, D. A, spend $100 a week. B, spend $75 a week. B, spend $50 a week, and so forth. So I've segmented them into, annual value. So you've got A, B, C, D, E, 9,000 odd people. Would you like to buy that? Do you reckon that the person that's buying the restaurant would say yes in a heartbeat? Yes. And in the instance of which I'm talking about, it happened to be Sanctuary Cove. The guy, I forget the numbers now, but it was something like he paid $70,000 or $80,000 for the database, over and above what he had paid for the sale of for the purchase of the restaurant. So your database is something that you can actually have as an asset that you can sell later on. Okay. Now I've used hospitality here to sort of give you a theatrical explanation of how important that is. Yeah, you have to just transfer this and sort of put it into your own business. But if you're not collecting data, online or offline at the moment, make it the very first thing you do tomorrow. Okay. Now, repetitive trade, stimulating it, means that you've just got to think outside the square. You've got to give people a reason for coming back and spending more with you more often. And I want to show you a pathetic attempt at that, and this happens to be a promotion that's running at the moment with Woolworths. Okay. Now, it may be working for them. If someone from Woolworths was watching this, they go, oh, well, smart Alec JD, it's working for us. Our sales are up 9% or whatever it might be. Well, I'll tell you what, whatever this is doing, if I got involved in this, I would tenfold what it's doing, okay? This is just rubbish. It's at Woolworths, and it's Ancient Animals. You can see that there is one smart thing they've done, and that is that they are gearing this towards the younger children who, mum will probably go out of her way to shop with Woolworths, and that's fine. But I think they're missing out on a really, really, really big market, and that is the 7, 8, 9, 10, 12-year-old children who have more pester power. Because that, and I'll tell you why it's a stupid thing at the moment, okay? And I'll tell you that because I happen to know everything, as you know. Such a weight on my shoulders knowing everything. Pester power. When I had the Rugby League bubblegum cards, or the Jurassic Park, or Aladdin, or Beauty and the Beast, or whatever the bubblegum cards were that I was doing at the time, I marketed them to a broad range of children. So if it was a Disney movie, obviously it would start at probably 3 and go through to maybe 11, 12, 14. If it was a Rugby League bubblegum cards, then it generally started probably 6 or 7 and went through to 17. I was very happy that I had a broad age range, if you like, of children at that time. And the reason why is because pester power, and as a parent I know, and I'm sure if you're a parent or grandparent you know, pester power really kicks in at around about that 6, 7, 8, 9 years of age mark, where I'm talking pester power where they're pulling your sleeve going, Mum, Dad, I want to go to Luna Park. I want to go to Luna Park. I want the packet of football cards. I want the packet of football cards. Or can we do this? Can we do that tomorrow? Now, at 7 or 8 or 9, you can't really gloss over by saying, oh, yes, little Tommy, yeah, no, we'll do that, don't you worry, and then hope that they're going to forget about it half an hour later. You can do that with a 3-year-old. Oh, yeah, sure, look, we'll go to Luna Park tomorrow, little Jimmy, don't worry about that. And, of course, Jimmy gets distracted by a paddle pop stick or something. He'll never come back again and pester you. But I guarantee you a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or 14-year-old will be pulling your sleeve until you take them to Luna Park or buy that packet of football cards. Now, what they've done here is that they've gone for the Wiggles audience that do not have the same level of pester power as an over 5 or over 6 audience. And therefore, I believe what they've done is that they've actually channeled all their energy into a very small micro segment that they could have expanded. And Mr. Know-All-Me will show you how they could have expanded that in a moment. And anyway, I think I bought this for $5 to see how stupid it was. When you open up this, they've got the mandatory, this book belongs to, put your name and details in there. They've got a couple of little details about, wildlife and what have you, and that's all very fine. And then they've got these plastic pages throughout this that, obviously when you shop at Woolworths, you get your little cards and you put them in here. Now, let me show you what happens when you shop at Woolworths. Okay, I'll just put that down for a second. You get one of these crappy little, sort of packets, okay, so you can see that there. And then you rip open those packets. I'll just see if I can do that. Okay, you rip them open, and you get these woeful, crummy, awful little piece of crappy cardboard in here. And you'll see just how, they're just awful. Okay, so there's a picture of that's the back side of it, which is on the back of every one of them. And then you get a picture of a dinosaur or, whatever that is, a something saurus. And then you actually, mainly they're all dinosaurs, and then you get a crappy little sticker. Let me just open this up for you to see how crummy it is. So you get that crummy little sticker there that pops out of that, and you get the sticker and you, I don't know, put it wherever you put it, okay, but it's a crappy little sticker. Gosh, I'm working hard to get attention when I put dinosaur stickers on my face. Anyway, by the way, this is not water, it's ouzo, so that's why I'm doing stupid things like that. I'll show you how it should have been done, because I know everything, of course. This is placid. It's ordinary. It's pretty much what you'd expect from walking through any Dimmicks bookstore. There's nothing really wow about it. Look at the the artwork there, and we see you'll see it's pretty infantile, and therefore it would probably only get to I'm guessing a maximum of 5 or 6 years of age. What they should have done is that they should have rung me up. Of course they should have, okay, if they had any sense, and I would have shown them how to do it. And this is how they should have done it. Okay, this is exactly the same sort of continuity scheme, but I did it with, excuse the language, I did it with balls. Okay, I gave it balls. And this was some years ago. In fact, it was back in the 90s, and it's called Attack of the Dinosaurs. And what I would have suggested is they had an album with balls like that. Okay, that's the back of it. Okay, there, so you can see that these dinosaurs not only would appeal to a 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old, but they also would appeal to a 12, 13, 14-year-old. So therefore what they've done with their repetitive trade strategy is that they've actually widened the funnel. And what I did here in this particular one, that was done with News Limited newspapers, by the way, and we made $500,000 in 4 weeks out of this, so it was a pretty successful promotion for us too. So I gave the newspaper the opportunity to make this album available at all the news agencies for I think $2.95 or $3.95, when in fact this booklet should be $15, retail value. So we printed them for, I don't know, whatever it was at the time, 50 cents or 60 cents. They retailed for $2.95 or something like that at the news agency. And what happened is that your kids had to collect these stickers, and they're throughout this book. I don't know whether you can see it there, but there are sticker spaces. So you can see up here, there's sticker spaces. And what happened is that as you go through the book, more, pretty exciting pictures about dinosaurs, but as you can see, there's more sticker spaces as you go right throughout the book. Now, the reason dinosaurs are a real winner is because they're on the school curriculum, by the way. I had done my homework beforehand. I came up with this idea when I went to a Disney Dreaming and Doing seminar over in the States. It was in Orlando, and I asked one of the Disney Imagineers who were teaching us at the time to dream up all these crazy new ideas like I'm teaching you now, are there any themes that have never failed for Disney? And he said, yeah, one, dinosaurs. You never lose on dinosaurs because they're in the school curriculum. And despite the fact it's probably more 60-40 boys orientated, they're in the school curriculum. Kids love dinosaurs. And I said, wow, terrific. So I came back to Australia and produced this and gave it to News Limited as a possible continuity promotion to stimulate, guess what? Repetitive trade. They grabbed it. They wanted to change it to age of the dinosaurs, and I said, not if I'm putting $1 million, which I had to underwrite this to the tune of about $1 million, not if I'm putting $1 million behind it, okay? It's going to be the Attack of the Dinosaurs, just as Steven Spielberg would have it. It ain't going to be the age of the dinosaurs, otherwise I won't do it with News Limited. And they came across, which is good. Now what happened is that this launched, guess what we did? With the first Sunday newspaper, when we launched this, we gave them 2 free stickers in the paper. So little Tommy got the Sunday paper, got his mum to pay $2.95 at the news agency to get this continuity booklet. He stuck his sticker here, number 14, and he got number 27 and stuck it there. And then what do you think he did? He started screaming to mum, no matter what age he was, whether he was 3 or whether he was 12 or 14, Mum, I want the rest of the stickers. Well, guess what? He couldn't get the rest of the stickers unless his mum bought the Telegraph. Okay, in Melbourne it was the Sun, it was the Herald Sun, and whatever it was in the other states. You had to clip a coupon out of the newspaper every day for the next 3 weeks to collect your next, whatever it was, 20 stickers or 25 stickers. So therefore they would clip a token out. Mrs. Smith would go to the news agency with little Tommy, and she would give 50 cents across to the news agency for my 1 cent sticker. I had quite a bit of margin in those stickers, I've got to tell you. Now, we shared the margin, of course, with News Limited, so therefore I didn't keep the whole 49 cents out of the 50 in terms of profit, but we had large profit margins in this. And by the way, they weren't crummy little stickers like this rubbish, they weren't things like that. They were proper, it was sort of like an A5 sticker sheet, and there were multiple stickers on it and little dinosaur facts, and when you turned the sticker over, there were more dinosaur facts. This was pre-Jurassic Park, by the way, so it wasn't like I was riding on the back of Steven Spielberg's Jurassic. This was before Jurassic Park. When Jurassic Park came around, I did this over again and made more money. And I'm not suggesting that you have to go out and look for dinosaur themes. I'm just saying to you that compared to the crappy, very small funnel that Woolworths are chasing down with this, which is clearly a Wiggles audience of under 5 children. I took it to another level, still got under 5s, but also got 12s and 14s. Now, the lesson that I'm asking you to learn from this is when you're thinking about a continuity scheme, a repetitive trade stimulant, I'm not for a moment getting away from the fact that I continue to teach you to look for your most profitable customer. Still do that, absolutely. But if you can widen the funnel in that most profitable customer category, then you'll be doing yourself the favour. So if you think about Woolworths, their most profitable customer clearly are parents who have children. Why? Because they're going to buy more groceries every week because they've got, 1 or 2 or 5 children. In our instance, 6 children, okay, throughout the years of, spending a fortune with Woolworths. So therefore, if they say, well, our most profitable customer happens to be people living in this sort of postcode region who have children, well, that's fine. That's identifying the most profitable customer. What I'm saying is that why don't you actually drill down even further? Sorry. Why don't you actually look at that particular channel and go, okay, well, would we make more money out of people with under 5 children, as in preschoolers, or would we make more money out of people who have got maybe under 5s, but also might have an 8 or 9 or 12 or 14-year-old? Well, the answer is pretty obvious. So why don't we actually create a continuity scheme, which is what the dinosaur stickers are. It's what's called a continuity program, whether it's with the newspaper or whether it's with Westfield or whether it's with Woolworths. It's called a continuity program to stimulate continuity. Then why don't we actually widen that most profitable target audience to include as many age groups of children as possible, so that if we acknowledge that our most profitable customer are parents with children, why don't we actually make sure that whatever we're going to give as an incentive will attract children who are 3, 4 or 5, and also children who are 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14. And that's what they've not done. They've not done this because I'm telling you as a parent, I know that artwork on the front of that, and flip it over to the back of it, that ain't going to attract a 9, 10, 12-year-old child who's wearing Billabong. Just not going to. They're going to look at that and go, oh, no, sorry, that's not for me. Just before I move on to a couple of other things, I want to highlight to you that I've done this sort of continuity loyalty scheme quite a few times. And probably one of the more famous ones was, when I say famous, I mean, I still get tapped on the shoulder today from people who say, look, I've got that Disney poster in my home. It's all, our children have grown up now and moved on, but the Disney poster is still there. This again was a News Limited promotion whereby I created this unbelievable poster that's never been seen before, where all the characters are together, and they got 2 free stickers with the first newspaper. So the Sunday paper came out and said, look, you can get this normally valued at $15 or $20 poster for just $1.95 or whatever it was at the time. I think it was something like that. It was a giveaway price anyway, just cover the printing. And you get 2 free stickers with today's paper. So guess what happened? The children would get sticker number 14 and sticker number 72. Basically, there were about 50 sticker spaces that ran around the perimeter of the poster. And the newspaper gave out, or I gave out, I underwrote it, but the newspaper promoted 2 free stickers on the first Sunday paper, and the kids would put those 2 stickers on the poster, and guess what they yelled out to Mum? Mum, I want to get the rest of the stickers. And what did they have to do? Buy the newspaper every day for the next 3 weeks to clip the coupon and take the coupon with 50 cents into the news agency to buy my 1 cent sticker. Now, the reason I'm saying that to you, explaining that to you, is not that I expect you to do dinosaurs or Disney or stickers or any of that. Obviously, your product or services probably don't come anywhere near that. But think how you can do the same thing in terms of incentivizing your clients to come back and shop with you more or buy from you more. Incidentally, if you don't mind me showing off, that Disney poster, you've probably heard me boast about this before, but there was an American magazine called Storyboard Art, and this was a magazine that goes out to Disney Trekkies, people who are mad on Disney merchandise and collectibles. And so therefore this magazine was something that those sorts of people would subscribe to. And this particular guy that ran the magazine, Steve Fiat his name is, he actually decided that he loved what I was doing so much that he would actually do a story in here about my poster. And let me just flip open, where is it here? The end result of this was quite spectacular. We had so many Disney Trekkies contact us. Here it is here. Forgive me if you don't mind if I just open up. So therefore, the double page spread, and this one was on Disney cards and posters and stickers, all the stuff that I was doing. He had something like about 28,000 Disney freaks that love Disney in America that subscribed to this magazine. And he asked if he could take some stock from me and sell the posters. And as it turned out, he got a request from a lady called Diane Miller for 6 posters, half a dozen posters. And we printed a special limited edition poster on special prismatic stock, which made the lights and everything glitter in the poster. It was quite spectacular, if I do say so myself. And I think we were still producing those posters for something like $2 or $3, but we were selling them for $150. It was just, incredible. Guess what? Diane Miller didn't make any sense to me. He just said, well, this Diane Miller said that, she'd like to, sort of get half a dozen posters. And I went, oh, good on her. He said, you don't know who she is? And I said, no. He said, let's go with Diane Disney Miller. She's Walt Disney's daughter. And I went, oh, wow, okay. He said, when she saw the poster, she said to me that it was the best Disney poster she had ever seen. Now, I must say that, it takes quite a bit for me to get chuffed over something, because I'm normally pretty sarcastic. But yeah, that was quite incredible. That was the best Disney poster Walt Disney's daughter said she had ever seen. So yeah, we got quite a buzz out of that. Let me give you an example of a B2B continuity scheme, okay, in terms of, repetitive trade stimulant. A client in Brisbane, electrical company, about 16 employees. And what they do is put home automation into people's homes. Okay, so therefore the lights come on and off at certain times to save you spending more on electricity. And you can program it so that you can use your mobile phone and turn the air conditioning on from 5 kilometres away from home for an afternoon. And look, this home automation is something that's more likely going to be in the wealthier people's homes, because it's one of those, it's not a must-have, but it's one of those luxury items. And this particular client, the electrical company, said, look, we've got builders at the higher end building homes in Sanctuary Cove and Sovereign Islands and all of the upmarket areas of Brisbane, who get this home automation system off us once or twice or maybe 3 times, but then they see a cheaper offer and go elsewhere. And I said to the husband and wife owner, well, you've got to stop them from going elsewhere by having some sort of lure. And they said, yeah, but how do we do that? Because the only lure we can do is to drop our price. Because what happens is that they buy the $20,000 or $30,000 home automation system from us in the first instance, but then they find another electrician or electrical company who offers the same service for $2,000 or $3,000 less, and so they go to them. Because you see, the thing is the builder has quoted to build this fancy home in Sovereign Islands or Sanctuary Cove, and part of the deal was that he was going to put in a home automation electrical power system. But then, of course, he thinks to himself, well, gee, if I can get it $2,000 or $3,000 less from somewhere else, then, the end user, the homeowner, doesn't know where I got it from. I'll just use that one. And I said, that's because you're selling on price. You're not selling on benefits. So and they said, yeah, but, our home automation system, frankly, is about the same as most other home automation systems that might be $5,000 less. I said, okay, that's right. Let me show you how to do this. I said, what would people spend, or what would a builder spend on a home automation system? And they said, anywhere between $15,000 and $40,000. I said, well, what would the average be? They said, between $20,000, $25,000 for most home automation systems. And keep in mind, they're putting these into $1 million or $2 million home. And I said, well, look, do you mind if I don't mind? I've got a frog in my throat. So I said, look, okay, righto. Do you think builders, the high-end builders, would love to go to Las Vegas? And they went, what's that got to do with selling home automation systems? I said, everything. Let me tell you. Would they like to go to Vegas? And they said, well, yeah, who wouldn't like to go to Vegas? I said, good. How much do you make out of your home automation systems? And they said, we're a bit embarrassed to say this, but about half, 50%. Well, you make Ned Kelly look like a gentleman. So therefore, for every $10,000 they sold of a home automation system, they're making 5, let's say. They actually said between 50 and 60%, so they might have been making 55 or 60%. Anyway, I said, okay, well, let's put it this way. If your average sale is $20,000, $25,000 to a high-end builder, how about we do this? If you had $100,000 worth of income come from a builder, you're telling me you'd make about 50. Maybe 55, maybe 60, but let's just say 50. They went, yep. I said, good, okay. Would you be willing to give up 10% of your total sale in order to double your business? And of course, we all know the answer is yes. I said, good. Well, that's all you need to do. So therefore, what we'll do is for every $10,000 a builder spends with you with the home automation system, you give them a Las Vegas point, a Las Vegas convention point. I mean, yeah, go on. And I said, so therefore, what happens is that when they save 10 points, which means they've spent 10 times $10,000, that's 100 grand, they go to Las Vegas to attend your annual home automation conference. And they said, but we don't have one. I had to slap them. Okay, they were slow learners. I really had to slap them, and that will happen to you too if you don't, if you don't learn fast. So anyway, that's what happened. I said to them, look, this is what you do. You promote to these builders. For every $10,000, they get a Las Vegas point. When they get 10 points, which means they're blowing 100 grand with you, then they get 2 tickets to go to Las Vegas for your annual November, October, wherever you want to hold it, conference at the New York Hotel in the main strip. And guess what? The $10,000, which it will cost you, okay, which will be a couple of airfares and the accommodation and whatever, is 10% of the 100,000. So therefore, what you're doing is devoting 10% of the 100,000 to giving them a reason to remain constantly a client of yours. And out of the 100,000, instead of making your normal 50,000, you're going to make 40,000. Get over it, okay? Their eyes lit up the size of saucepans because they could see what this could do for their business. They could see that this was going to stimulate loyalty and raving fans. Let's face it, look, think about it. If a builder, upmarket builder, was getting a home automation system from them on a couple of occasions, and already he was up to 5 points of the 10 that he needed, and all of a sudden he gets another gig to build a beautiful big house in a classy suburb in Brisbane, and he knows that he can probably get a home automation system for $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 cheaper off another supplier, but he's sitting on 5 Vegas points. Where do you think he's going to go? Where do you think he's going to go? Of course he's going to go to them because they've got a sexy Happy Meal toy that the other guy hasn't got. So once again, this comes back down to the mantra that I am trying to sort of get across to you guys all the time, and that is the bonus ends up becoming the big sell factor rather than the actual product itself. It's it's quite amazing, I know, but let's face it, to the ultimate buyer of a Happy Meal, which is a child, pester-powering mum to get it, or mum or dad to get it, the ultimate buyer is getting that Happy Meal box for the Disney toy, not for the hamburger. Because as a parent and maybe a grandparent, if you have grandkids, you'll know that the hamburger doesn't ever get fully eaten. It's all about the free Disney toy. Likewise on the bottom of the cornflakes pack, okay? So therefore, look, the very basic continuity scheme that I think is brilliant, but they seem to be the only industry that does it, is the, the cafes, the little coffee shops. You'll see that with coffee shops, a lot of them give you that little membership card, and when you come in, they either put a clip and put a hole through each time you get a coffee, or they put a little stamp on it, and when you get the 9 stamps or the 9 holes, you get a free complimentary coffee. They've been doing that for years, but most of us who've been sucked in by that continuity scheme, because we go back and get our coffee there because we're going to get the free one when we get 9, we don't think about doing it for our own business. And I think the reason I'm losing my voice all the time is this inflection that I get. I don't know why I talk like this. Seinfeld talks like that. I don't know. Yeah, maybe he's having an influence on me. I milk the association so much. This is the pain that I have to go through. I'm starting to talk like you. So look, the other thing, you've probably heard me rabbit on about this with, sort of retail businesses. It's just that they're easy. I wanted to give you that B2B, business to business example then to prove to you that it's not just a retail coffee shop and it's not just McDonald's with the Happy Meal toys. Any business to business or business to consumer can dream up these repetitive trade stimulants and, almost force continuity. In my instance, it's I guess already built into the program, because in my instance, as you know, the stuff that I teach can have an instant positive effect on a business, no question about that. But if I just charged by the hourly rate and I gave someone an idea that made them, another $50,000 or $100,000 or $1 million, my hourly rate, no matter what it was, whether it was $1,000 or $2,000 an hour, would not be a fair recompense for giving them that idea. So that's why I don't charge on an hourly rate. I charge on an annual membership basis, like what you're involved in with the masterclass. And the reason for that is that you may get an idea from me right up front that increases your sales dramatically. But if I was to give that to you and I only got an hour or 2 hours worth of consultation, then I know who's won and who's lost. Okay, so that's why I have a membership plan that basically has people involved with my mantra over a 12-month period. And I know it's for you to judge, but I really do believe that hanging around this environment over a 12-month period is very, very valuable for people, because not only do they get hopefully the quick wins, but they also get a long-term benefit from having this mantra embedded into their heads forevermore. Because if they choose at the end of the 12 months, you included, if you choose at the end of the 12 months to ride off on your white horse and do stuff yourself, that's fine. That's your prerogative. But hopefully being involved in this environment and coming to our 3 masterclass events throughout the year, then you're going to be way ahead of your competitors, because you've got this wow factor direct response mantra drilled in. Okay, and that's what I want you to have. And so therefore I sort of have a forced continuity by the fact that I do have 12-month programs. And in my private coaching, which of course is a bigger investment for companies, where they get more of me, then that's a 3-month program. And again, I had someone come up at one of our sort of preview seminars. You know how I do things. I have a preview seminar, which these days is normally a 1-dayer, and then I show off for most of the day, as you've seen. Okay, I can see you shaking your head. Yeah, you do, you show off. And then I make a pitch at the end of the day. I had a husband and wife come up, and they said to me, they were from a regional town, and they had a gymnasium come healthy living business, and they said, could we have an hour of your time? And I said, what do you mean? They said, we don't want to join the master class just yet, but we'd like to have an hour of your time. What would that cost? And I just gave them the price of the master class. And they said, but that's the price of the master class. I said, yes, you can have an hour at that rate, or you can have a year at that rate. Okay, I don't cut my stuff up into any more bite-sized pieces other than you join the masterclass or you take a private coaching program, which is a 3-month thing. And then they got it. They had a bit of a giggle, actually, and I won't say they apologised, but they got it. I just said, look, I don't make any money if I was to just hand out my IP, my intellectual property, for an hour here and an hour there. That would be ridiculous. And not only would that be false economy for me, but it would be false economy for the client, because despite the fact that they might get a good idea out of me in that hour, then they're never going to get the benefit that they would get if they join a club that's got a more constant interaction with me, as hopefully you guys are sort of experiencing now. So they got it. They didn't end up joining the masterclass, and that was their prerogative. Maybe they just didn't have the money at the time. But the fact is that I highlighted to them that I have, I guess, a forced continuity, whereby people come into my world, they've got to stay for a certain amount of time. That's the way I've built the products. So you might be able to do it that way. Okay, it's what's called forced continuity. So you might think about doing it that way. I do give examples from time to time of hairdressers, because it's just an easy one, and we all know that male or female, you normally get a haircut once a month, or once every 5 weeks, or whatever it might be. Women might go more often, unless you are wildly happy with that particular hair salon, then you might tend to shop around. And so I often, because I've spoken at hair salon conventions, I often say to them, again, would you be willing to give up 10% of your sale price in order to double or triple your business? And everyone puts their hand up. And so therefore I say, well, imagine if for every $50 you gave away a cinema point, a picture theatre cinema point. It could be anything, but just pick a cinema point, because getting a couple of picture theatre tickets is pretty universally appealing to men and women. So let's just say for every $50 you give away a cinema point. And then when the lady saves 6 cinema points, then of course you give her 2 tickets to go to the cinema. And I'm guessing, I know depending upon where you go it might be a bit different, but let's just say a cinema ticket is $15 for argument's sake. Okay, so if you gave her 2 picture theatre cinema tickets, $15 each, it's going to cost you $30. If she's had to save 6 cinema points, each one of them having to spend $50 a time, that's 6 times 50, that's $300 that she spent. And guess what? The 2 tickets to the cinema have cost you $30. $30 and the 300 is 10%. So basically all it is a 10% discount, or the equivalent of a 10% discount, but so much more powerful in terms of stimulating repetitive trade. So what I'd like you to do right now is get one of these out, an Artline 210. You have to write with an Artline 210, you can't write with anything else. And just write down what you believe are ways that you can stimulate repetitive spending in your business. Can you give out points for every X dollars? Now that's just an easy one. That's easy. At the very least you could do that, where you say, look, okay, every time you buy something off me to the value of this, I'm going to give you a reward point, and that reward point, you save it, and when you get 5 or 10 or 15 or 20, whatever currency value you want to put against that reward point is entirely up to you. But you say to them, when you get to a certain level, I'm going to give you this reward. Now, in the instance of that home automation people, I suggested they turned it into an annual conference to avoid the arm's length policy that some businesses have with, giving away junkets. And so therefore, if they say that it's an annual conference, and therefore the builders all come to the Gold Coast to go to the Palazzo Versace, or they all go to Las Vegas to go to the New York conference, and they go at a particular time together, and let's say it's October, then of course they go over on the Thursday, they come back on the Tuesday, so it's a long, long weekend. The conference can run Saturday from 10 till noon. Okay, so it's a junket, but it's disguised as a conference for the sake of them being able to feel good in their industry that they are going to a conference. They got tickets to go to a conference. And by the way, when I was talking about that home automation system, and I said, look, for 10 points, which means 10 times $10,000, they get to go to Vegas. If they spend $200,000, they get 4 tickets to go to Vegas. Okay, so therefore, the point is, for every 10 points, they get 2 passes to go to the Vegas convention. Now, if you didn't have any problems with arm's length policies in certain industries, and you just wanted to give away the junket, and you said to them, look, go to Vegas whenever you like, we don't care when you go, here it is, here's the tickets, off you go. That's fine, you can do that as well. I'm just suggesting you might like to disguise it as a convention if you need to for arm's length policy. That's about it, guys. So therefore, sorry, I forgot to get to the end of that. Get your pen out. We're going to take a restroom coffee break now, and what I'd like you to do is write down how you can put together a continuity repetitive trade incentive that's going to lure your prospects to spend more money with you more often. In other words, what can you do to get them to come back and buy from you more often? And I suggest the easiest way is to give a loyalty point, which is what Flybuys is all about, for goodness sake, but you may have more margin that you can play with. So therefore, with Flybuys, I think you need to spend like $4.8 billion to get, one $50 shopping voucher. So yours might be more realistic. Think about how you can implement a repetitive trade scheme, or I better not call it scheme, system in your business that's going to stimulate loyalty and raving fans. Okay, so you know what the drill is now. We're going to stop for a 5-minute coffee break. I'm going to try and get my voice back. I don't think the water's doing it, so I think I'll give myself some caffeine. And 5 minutes time, jump onto the teleconference number, which you have, and then we'll have a 30-minute Q&A session where you can ask me questions, and I'll try and give you some answers. So give yourself 5 minutes, and we'll talk to you then.